Good morning. For those who are joining us, and I'll be allowing more people in as they jump in onto my screen here. Thank you for joining us for our third virtual job spotlight. These are co-sponsored by CESA 8, Inspire Northeast Wisconsin Technical College, and the Northeast Wisconsin Manufacturing Alliance. We have 4 speakers with us today that we're going to be hearing about engineering and design. So John Dickinson is an engineering supervisor at Fincantieri Marinette Marine. Larry Charnecki is the engineering manager at Marion Body Works. Cody Girardin is in prototype design with his own company, Girardin Fabrication and Design, and Andy Noonan is a prototype and design instructor at NWTC. We do have one last date for our manufacturing month job spotlights, and that is the 28th. We're skipping next week because next week is manufacturing week for the Northeast Wisconsin Manufacturing Alliance. So they actually have a variety of different events lined up next week. So if you're interested in manufacturing, that would be the spot to look at, NWMA, for more information on manufacturing week, but we will be finishing up on the 28th with electromechanical engineering. So some norms for today. This meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast through Inspire Northeast Wisconsin. Everyone is muted right now, but you will be able to hear our speakers in a minute, and that's just to prevent too many distracting background noises. Everyone's video capabilities are turned off again, except for our speakers, so only the presenters can be seen. Again, that just prevents distractions. Only the presenters, actually only I will be sharing my screen, and all of the presenter slides will be on that screen, so you'll be able to see everything. If you need to leave the meeting, I will be watching the list up at the top, so I will try to let you in, but once the meeting gets started, I can't guarantee that you will be able to get back in. Please, please, please ask questions of our presenters in the chat. We have Allison from Northeast Wisconsin, oh gosh, I can't, NWTC, there we go, manning our chat this morning. So she will share any questions that you ask. So please ask questions of our presenters. That would be great. And we really don't anticipate needing to do this, but we do have the ability to remove anyone from the meeting if they're becoming distracting. So we kind of centered our work this month on the careers aligned with the advanced manufacturing technology pathway. So we looked at the subdivisions of that, and that's kind of how we've gotten our speakers each week. So this week we are really concentrating on that sub-pathway of engineering and design. So a question, students especially, please chat, answer the question in the chat. If you were to guess from these certificates and degrees, from a diploma to an associate degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or a professional degree, what do you think is the minimum education requirement to become a mechanical engineer? So what would be your guess? Oh, and Anne Franz wanted me to let everyone know in the chat that if they are interested in information about NWMA, please contact her and you can get student event information from her. So Allison, any guesses?
There are no guesses.
Come on, students. I know we have a lot of students that are supposed to be joining us yet. How about industrial designer? What do you think would be the minimum education required to become an industrial designer?
I'm waiting.
We just do not have chatty students. All right. Well, we will find out the answers to those 2 questions as we hear from our speakers. So first up, we have John Dickinson, the engineering supervisor at Fincantieri Marinette Marine. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a second so that you can see John as he's talking, and then he is going to let me know when he needs his slides up. So John, take it away.
Morning, everyone. As she said, I'm John. I'm an engineering manager here at Marinette Marine. Um, my career started, I was fortunate enough to have an opportunity in my high school to have engineering courses provided in my junior and senior year. While I was in those courses, I developed an interest in AutoCAD. Once we graduated, I enrolled in AutoCAD courses in my local community college. From there, I was offered, it wasn't really an internship, but it was more of a training / apprenticeship program at a local shipyard called Bender Shipbuilding. There, they taught us the AutoCAD, Ship Constructor, and Navisworks programs that most shipyards typically use to do their design work, 3D design, things like that. I was there for about 3 or 4 years. I learned different disciplines: structure, outfitting, electrical. I've worked with manufacturing, doing field engineering, worked on multiple projects, was responsible for dry dock design, OSVs, new build, ship repair, things like that. Then from there, I went to Austell, which was right across the river there in Mobile. I worked on Austell's version of the LCS craft and the JHSV craft. There, I predominantly did electrical design, lighting layouts, cableway modeling, things like that. And I was also involved heavily in field engineering while I was there. From there, I went to Grand Bahama Shipyard in Freeport, Bahamas. I was the lead structural ship steel designer there. I did that for about 3 years before I made the transfer to ship manager. And as a ship manager, I was responsible for the day-to-day operations of any vessel we had in the yard that I was a part of. Predominantly, we did cruise vessels where I was over providing manpower requirements, liaison with owners, reps, ship checks, pretty much every day-to-day operation that we had to do to ensure that the job was completed. I did that for about 5 years while I was there. While there, working in the multiple disciplines, working with manufacturing like I did, I was able to apply the knowledge I learned from them to the engineering side of it, which brought me here to Marinette Marine. Now, while I've been here at Marinette Marine, I've tried to bring some of my knowledge from working in various shipyards around the world to here and train the people here on different ways to do things. Day to day, days vary here. Some days you're in meetings all day. Some days you're training your team on better ways to do things, guiding them, advising them on how to do things. You're dealing with manufacturing on a daily basis with any issues that may or may not come up while they're trying to build the vessels. Every day is a different task, presents a different set of challenges. That's pretty much it for me. I've got a few slides kind of go into detail about the different disciplines. So engineering is basically broken down into 2 different groups. Basically, you have your functional engineering and your detail engineering. Your functional engineering is responsible for the base design of the vessel. So all your weight counts, your bending moments of the vessel as it sits in the water, GA drawings, vendor information, purchase specs, things like that. So that structure, naval architecture, machinery, pipe, HVAC, electrical, and outfitting. Typically, you need to have some type of bachelor's degree to do that type of work because there's a lot of calculations, a lot of rules that you need to know, be it if it's from DNV, ABS, Lloyd's Register, which are all bodies that govern shipbuilding around the world. Now, from my side, the detail engineering, it's the same structure with structure, machinery, pipe, HVAC, electrical, and outfitting. But detail engineering is responsible for the implementation, design drawings. We create the 3D library parts, the 3D model, and we create the manufacturing drawings that they actually use to build the vessels. All that is based off of the original functional engineering design. So we do that with a multitude of different computer programs. If you go to the next slide. So both functional and detail use AutoCAD, Ship Constructor, and Navisworks. AutoCAD is what I went to school for to learn. It's a great way to learn it. I had some really good instructors. It's a very easy program to learn. Ship Constructor is an add-on to AutoCAD. Its name says it all. Ship Constructor is used for ship design, ship modeling. Navisworks is a program that's used. We pull the 3D information out of Ship Constructor and we're able to view it in a program called Navisworks where we can virtually fly around the vessel, look for any clearance issues, interferences that we may have, whether it be a pipe running through a cable way or we're running through a structure where it shouldn't be. We also use that software for our reviews with our customers, internal reviews, Navy reviews, things like that. Now, the picture shown is just a general view that's pulled from Ship Constructor through AutoCAD, just a general layout of something that one of our drawings may show. It's really hard to see, but you can, if you can, it's got certain part numbers on it. It's got dimensional locations that the manufacturing actually uses to locate the equipment on the vessel. It's got frame numbers, longitudinal numbers, anything they need to locate that equipment, we generally put on this drawing. So if we go to the next slide, here's a few shots. The one in the bottom right-hand corner, that's a cableway model pulled from Ship Constructor. As y'all can see, it's completely 3D, three-dimensional. It's a great program. It's very easy to learn, very easy to use. And then the upper left-hand corner picture is a shot from Navisworks. That's pretty much the whole ship brought in, and we're able to trim certain sections of the vessel out so we can view the internals, and that shows everything: the electrical equipment, pipe work, structure, outfitting, anything that you can imagine goes into building a ship is shown on that model. So if we go to the next slide, it's got an even better shot of it. Oh, I guess he took it out.
Yep,
Well,
sorry. Yeah, that one.
there was one that showed the section at the center line, which basically we were able to trim half the ship away, and you can actually view all the internals of the vessel. So, you know, it's a great career to get into. Definitely, I would recommend exploring different options. It's not one discipline. If you're big into building things, you probably want to go to the structure side of it. If you're more interested in, you know, the small little details like the desk, lamps, chairs, whatever, that would be more outfitting. If you're big into electrical, naturally that would be electrical. Any type of piping systems, that would be piping. There's multiple different avenues to go down the engineering side of it, whether it's the design side, the actual physical engineering of the vessel, or on my side where it's the 3D design. You know, it's pretty cool to see what you do on a computer and what you print out on a piece of paper come to life physically out here in the yard. Every day you can walk out and see, hey, this was on a piece of paper, and now you've got a 20 or 30 ton unit sitting right outside your office ready to be assembled on the ship.
Awesome. I know you talked about some engineering classes in high school. Are there other courses that you think were really beneficial to take as a high school student?
If you go down where you want to be an actual engineer, definitely math. Math is very big because, as I stated, you know, calculations are a big part of it, especially when you go down the naval architecture route. So math is big. Just anything you can get into. The engineering classes, general construction classes. I know we offered shop or metalworking. Because if you know how manufacturing kind of wants to assemble something and you kind of have that background, it's easier to do your design work because you know what it's going to take to go into fabricating what you're trying to design.
Okay. Any questions from students out there? We would love for you to chat. So Allison, are you seeing anything?
I see no questions.
But do you have questions?
John, I'm curious, is there something you regret along your path?
Probably not going to school longer than what I did. I think there would have been more opportunities available to me earlier on in my career if I would have gone just one step further and gotten, you know, like a mechanical engineering degree or a structural engineering degree or that naval architecture degree.
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. That is great. So we will switch to our next speaker. So thanks, John. And speaker number 2 is Larry. I'm going to share my screen just for a second to pop that slide up. So Larry Charnecki is the engineering manager at Marion Body Works in Marion, Wisconsin. So Larry, tell us about your career pathway.
Sure. As I talk, you'll definitely hear some parallels between mine and John as far as some of the experiences and stuff. My pathway probably was a little bit more unusual than most. Again, In high school, I was definitely interested in those math and science classes. Those were my favorite subjects. I just loved them. I took every possible class I could that was available to me. Of course, back then, not that it's been too long ago, but they didn't have all of the great AP and additional college courses that are available in high school as they do today. So if possible, definitely recommend taking all those if that's what those classes are of interest to you, as they were of me. So after high school, I knew I wanted to do something related to those classes, and it was probably going to be either in the engineering field or even possibly a math teacher, just because I enjoyed that so much. But I went off to college down at UW-Madison, and started down the path of the engineering. While down in Madison, it's a great place and there's a lot to do and a lot of fun can be had. In some cases, you can have too much fun. So I ultimately did not finish my college career there. I ended up stopping after a year and a half and came back to the area here and actually started working in manufacturing here at Marion Body Works. Working on the shop floor, putting together some of the vehicles that we manufacture here. But fortunately, after a couple of years of doing that, there was an opening in the engineering department here for a draftsman, a detail draftsman, to create some of the AutoCAD drawings for the fire apparatus that we manufacture, again, similar to what John was explaining before also. So I was very fortunate to be able to get that position, to be able to start working in the engineering department because of all of the classes that I had taken in high school. I had also CAD classes, AutoCAD classes, and what I had taken so far in college. So that kind of started my engineering career. I was, as soon as I was able to get into that position, I knew that I wanted to continue my education. So I then had registered and started taking classes at night after work towards completion of my engineering degree. I will let you know, of course, it's definitely a good way of doing it. If you stay in school right away, it's a better way of doing it. But there was some benefits I felt to taking it at night while working, because a lot of the classes that I had taken, the engineering classes that I was taking at night, were directly related to a lot of what I was doing at work during the day. So I was able to get some hands-on with the classes, as opposed to when you go fresh out of high school to college, you're getting all of that information, but sometimes it's difficult to relate that to the real world. So I was fortunate to have that experience. In hindsight, going back, of course, ideally you would want to continue and finish right after school. It'll be a much better in the long run. So then, as I was continuing to my education to get my degree, I was fortunate again to continue to grow with the company here at Marion, and grew into a couple different positions, including production manager on the floor for those fire apparatus, managing a group of people to get the product built. And then as I was nearing the completion of my mechanical engineering degree, there was an opening for the engineering manager position here. And again, fortunate to be able to get that position, and have been working in that ever since. So I ultimately then, like I said, got my mechanical engineering degree. And shortly after, I actually even started working on my MBA, my master's of business, related to my work experience and being in a management role that was beneficial to me. I guess I say all that because bottom line, you can never stop learning. There's always stuff to know. And the more you know, the better it is. Additional classes are always helpful. So it always helps in the things I've done. So that's kind of how I got to where I am today. So in my role of an engineering manager, much of what I do is overseeing some of the other designers and engineers that we have working here on the various products. Tied to Lynn's question earlier, between the mechanical, she had some of the different degrees on there. I obviously had started as a draftsman. and a detailer, those a 2-year associate's degree is great for those types of positions. It gives you a lot of information, gives you some background information, and the CAD classes to be able to do those very successfully. Once you move on to the 4-year college degrees, the mechanical design degrees, that's where you get into more of the analysis of the structural analysis. Will this hold? Is this the right material? Et cetera. So those are kind of two different paths that I always like to tell students. Kind of depends on what level of the design you want to go for and what interests you the most. And again, this kind of parallels what John had said too. You got the design side and the analysis side, and then the drafting and the CAD side. So I do a little bit more of the analysis side, looking at the materials, looking at doing an FEA, finite element analysis, to make sure it's structurally sound. Our products are going on the road. So we've got things like weight distributions to make sure the weights are appropriately applied over the axles. Looking at different finishes. Again, we're on the road. There's a lot of chemicals and salt and stuff on the road that we have to be concerned about. So things like looking at the different various paints and galvanized coatings and other things like that. Also need to have familiarity from an electrical standpoint. We use a lot of different adhesives, so you've got some chemical knowledge that you need to be aware of. So part of the fun for me anyway with engineering, and especially here at Marion, we get involved with a lot of different products, a lot of different components. So there's a lot of variety, and that has allowed me to use much of what I've learned through my college courses and degree and stuff, where they teach you a little bit of everything. And I've been fortunate to be able to use a little bit of everything. So no, there's never a dull day. There's always something that needs to be determined, figured out. Engineering is ultimately solving problem solving. There are no answers, as there isn't in school in your coursework. When you get a problem in the real world out here, you've got to come up with the answer, and then hopefully it's the right one. If not, reevaluate and continue on, and try and continue to make it better and improve. So that's kind of what I do on a regular basis, besides obviously the meetings and just overall product improvement. I'm trying to make our products better. Continue learning, working with different suppliers, what they can do better. As far as engineering goes, again, if you like math, science, if you like to tinker, break things down, tear things apart, see how they work, engineering is just awesome to do that with. So find something you enjoy, figure out what that is, and then go forward with it. And of course, never give up. Obviously, I had challenges with my education, but I never gave up and ultimately got my degree. So that's, I guess, a brief summary.
Awesome. Students, please ask questions in the chat. You had mentioned, Larry, working at Marion Body Works and then continuing your classes at night. Does Marion Body Works have tuition reimbursement or other programs to support workers to do exactly what you did?
They definitely do. And that is an awesome benefit that many places of employment have now, which is great, the tuition reimbursement. That helped pay for much of my education, my classes. This different businesses have different levels of reimbursement, but fortunately Marion pays 100%. So yes, that was excellent. I still would have completed. I still would have done it anyway, but that's always a bonus. So correct.
Yeah, and it's great for students to know that, because so many times students and parents think that you have to go right into your 4-year degree, or that you have to find the money yourselves. And in many instances, if you get that job, they will support you at least, some of the tuition, if not all, as Marion Body Works does. So great.
Correct.
Allison, any questions that you or any students have?
There's nothing in the chat. But Larry, a question for you is, what's the best part of your job?
Like I said, I think to me, it's the variety of stuff that I get involved with. We have so many different products here at Marion and so many different things that go into that it's every day is unique. And so that to me is probably the best thing, is that I'm not spending a month working on one specific project or item. It's a lot of little things scattered about the day. That makes, of course, time management a challenge, but that's also part of the fun of it. So,
All right. Well,
Super. Thank you.
yes, thank you so much for the information, Larry. And we will move on to our third speaker. That is Cody Girardin in prototype and design, and his company is Girardin Fabrication and Design. So Cody.
Thank you. Good morning. I went back to school at the same time that I started our family company in our garage. The goal from the start was, obviously we want to be self-sufficient as a small business, a small family business. The career path was always to eventually be self-employed and to create jobs. And we knew that in order to do that, we had to learn a lot of trade skills as quickly as possible. The only way that we could do that was through the prototype and design program. That was the only program that fit the criteria that we were looking for. So it's a 2-year commitment. I feel like it flew by in a matter of months. The company that we have would not be where it is today if we didn't do that. And my only regret is not doing that sooner. So as far as the career path goes, we also had to plan accordingly. We have a family, just in case these things don't go as planned, we needed to be able to rely on a degree for, a career that we can see ourselves doing for a long period of time. My wife also went back to school at the same time. So when we decided to go to that program, that 2-year commitment, strategically, it allowed us to dial back on the work schedule, focus on building the company while pursuing a degree that would also, give us a career path if the business didn't work. Fortunately for us, it did. So, currently, and we're about 3-4 years in, we've got a staff of 7, 3 of which are prototype and design graduates, and one of which, as of last Wednesday, now owns a 1% stake in our company. So that's just kind of the natural growth trajectory that we've been able to achieve with the help of NWTC and prototype and design. So whereas in the garage, it was all myself and maybe a couple of buddies, we now have a team. My day-to-day consists of all the design work. We have SolidWorks. We use SolidWorks to design all of our furniture. And we do have a couple of slides to show you, to share with you what we do at our shop. And as you see these slides, bear in mind, all of this was trained at the college level in the 2-year program, prototype and design. So every skill that goes into producing a piece of furniture like this can be learned at a trade school. So now we have a team. My job is no longer producing the furniture, but rather managing the team that's producing the furniture. And we're trying to transition the company in a way where we're able to manage a person who manages the team, who manages the production of the furniture. And that's just kind of the trajectory that we're on. We take anywhere from 80 to 200 phone calls a day. We're shipping nationally, globally. And as far as production, I'm now only involved in the development phase, the design process, and producing the first prototype. So being a custom shop, I would say 90% of what we do is 100% from scratch custom, but we do have certain lines that we're launching. And for that, we will use the skills that we learned in those programs to develop the prototypes. And while we're doing that, what we're able to do is tweak the design, make design changes as needed, while also developing fixturing and ways to make the furniture highly repeatable so that we can take someone that might not have as much experience or skill, put them at a fabrication station, and they can produce essentially replicas or different variations of this furniture. So that's the day-to-day in our lives right now. The three that we have, the three employees that we have that graduated, each have their own kind of department. Brandon Joubert has been with us a little over a year. He has complete ownership and authority of the metal fabrication shop. Kim Engelbert starts on November 1st, and she'll be heading up the wood department, wood finishing, just processing of wood product. And we've also hired Nate Samorski, and he's kind of the apprentice fabricator, really developing into that role. So as far as advice that I could give to specifically anyone that might be interested in starting a company, but more generally to anyone that plans to operate at a very high level, the first thing that I would tell you is that you have to kind of pick a path that you can see yourself doing long term. There are not a lot of people that are kind of staying the course and staying with a career path for a lifetime anymore. But those that do, it's kind of easy to rise to the top. So you've got to do something that you love. You got to love what you're doing. That was critically important to us, and we do. Everyone here loves this work, so that's very important. Second, you cannot be afraid to fully immerse yourself in your trade. So you have to pick a trade that suits you and perfect your craft. You have to treat this like it is a long-term, lifelong venture and perfect your craft. You have to relentlessly pursue a mastery and perfection of your craft, whatever that may be. And I think one of the easiest ways to take steps toward that goal is education. And the sooner you do that, the better you're going to be. You're not going to enter your prime earning years until maybe you're in your 30s. So don't be afraid of a 2 or 4 year commitment to dedicate to education. It's critically important. And again, just to repeat, none of us would be where we are today if we didn't take that next step. So as far as pursuing your goals, there's only one way to do that. And that's with a certain level of intensity. And you, like I said, you've got to be relentless. Don't be afraid to, dive in head first 100%. Go ahead.
What were you doing before you thought I should start my own custom furniture business?
Yeah, so the 10 years that led up to that point were critical. They were critically important for me. It has been a lifelong goal to be self-employed. And, leading up to that point, I went to school, I went to NWTC for welding. I was a licensed fabricator and welder. And the whole time I'm paying attention. And that's just another bit of advice for anyone who might be interested in going off on their own. You've got to pay attention to the people that are already doing what you intend to do. Pay close attention and take mental notes. So that's kind of what I did for 10 years. I took, my career path very seriously, to the point where I kind of wrote a list of, things that I do in a day and everything that I do in a week. And I started to cross things off of that list. If there was an item on that list that did not get me closer to achieving my ultimate goal, it had to come off of the list. And you just have to have a certain level of discipline and consistency to get to that next level. And part of that is, there were certain habits that I had to go away. There were even people dear to me that just weren't conducive to achieving my goals, and I had to have the discipline to understand and acknowledge that. So before I went to school, I was a fabricator. I was in management positions at other companies at the corporate level. And the whole time, the ultimate end goal was launch a company, a viable, long-term, sustainable company. And we've achieved that. So, when I started the program, NWTC, Prototype and Design, the company was in a very infant state. It was conceptual. It was in my garage. And I would sit in the garage with friends and relatives, and I would talk about what I intend to do out here. And, understandably, they would chuckle. They would chuckle. I mean, those are some lofty goals, and I understand that. But if you're relentless, if you are consistent, and if you have the discipline, and you can dissect your own goals into manageable steps that you can take, actionable steps that you can take to achieve, you can do it, you know? And so out of the garage, we get into a 2,000 square foot manufacturing facility. And a year later, we blow a wall out. Now we're 4,000 square feet. And just last July, actually this July, we did it again. We took over the rest of the building, 8,000 square feet, a staff of 7, 3 college graduates. And they're really not chuckling anymore. So that's the ultimate advice for anyone that not only wants to get into self-employment or a venture, but if you already have a goal, if you already have a craft in mind and you have a passion for something, be relentless. You have to take your own seat at the table, and you can do it. You just have to look at it as actionable goals, and that's all you have to do. And you can do it whatever it might be.
That is awesome advice for becoming an entrepreneur. Allison, any questions that students or you have?
There are currently no questions in the chat, but Cody, I wish I had your discipline. That's very commendable. I am curious how you chose the furniture component to what you do.
Yeah, so I've just always had a passion for furniture and really art. I think furniture is a functional and most importantly lucrative and sellable form of art. So, you know, I've been an artist my entire life, but you know, I have the sense to understand that it's just not very likely to get to where I decided that I need to be just by being a freelance artist. You know, to scale a company and to grow rapidly and aggressively, a company that can sustain other jobs, feed multiple households, and eventually be handed down to my children, where I can develop and mentor, you know, my children into the point where they can take this over. I think furniture was just a natural fit. And I produced my first piece of furniture as a student in the prototype design program. It came from a sketch with a Sharpie, a piece of notebook paper, and translated that using SolidWorks. And you know, once we sold that first piece, we were also able to kind of strategically market just this one piece of furniture that has since been shipped to every state in the United States and about a dozen other countries.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks
Great.
so much for all of that information. And we go to share screen. So our last speaker is Andy Noonan, who is the instructor in that prototype and design course program that Cody was talking about. So Andy.
Yeah, so you heard a little bit about the prototype and design program. So like I'll introduce myself a little bit, my background. I actually took this program back in the late 90s, and it was called industrial model making. And I'm a model maker by trade. So when I was actually working at KI, which is a furniture company in Green Bay, and I just decided that wasn't my career path for the future. Well, they had a college reimbursement plan, so I decided to come and look for a program, and this was the program that I chose. I actually work in furniture and design at KI there, so I worked my way through multiple different steps, working from a junior model maker into a senior model maker, and then up into the management role. I also, like Larry, did college at night, did college during the day, that kind of stuff. While I was working. So I know that the paths can be very hard for a lot of people, but you really have to just embrace that path. And know that there is a lot of different reimbursement programs out there as well. I didn't pay for any of my college throughout the whole course of my education because my companies paid for it. So in the prototype and design program, we feature a lot of different skill sets that we train people in, and it allows people to be very flexible with what they're doing. Like Cody said, a lot of the different skills that were learned helped him to fabricate the different prototypes that he was making. We'll train students in general hand fabrication, the manual shop equipment, CNC machining, mold making, the additive manufacturing or 3D printing, which is becoming a huge part of the growing manufacturing world that's out there. You'll hear about Industry 4.0 as your careers grow and as you get through your high school career, but Industry 4.0 is the next wave of manufacturing. We do hybrid painting and finishing, as well as get into the AutoCADs and the SolidWorks, the 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional drawing softwares. We'll also do some architectural modeling, which is basically if there's somebody out there that needs to see a visual prototype, we'll build that visual prototype for them. We'll get into the metal fabrication, welding, as well as vacuum forming in terms of those skills. Now, any product out there needs to have a prototype built to it. It doesn't matter what it is. There's somebody needs to build the first one. And basically that's what we do here in the program. We take an idea a lot of times and we bring it to reality. We work with engineers and industrial designers to build that reality or that concept. Now, sometimes students will take that to the next level, like you saw with Cody, and he takes the design and then he builds the fabrication, where others will take somebody else's design and bring it to reality. You can see in some of these other pictures, some of these pictures that I have up on the screen, just some different models that we've built over the years. And basically, we'll do everything and anything that comes up with a project. You can see in the upper right-hand corner some 3D printed parts. Down below that is just some concept models where we're taking a piece of foam and fabricating it into a mouse that you use with a computer, or taking a calculator and making it so that it's just a replica, something that somebody can touch and feel, that kind of stuff. The cool thing about our program is you don't have to choose your path necessarily right out of high school. You can get into our program and then decide which skills that you like more, whether it's the welding and the fabricating or it's the 3D modeling. And that can kind of shoot you into your direction or your path. So that's really a nice flexible thing about our program. We can go into different multiple fields, go into different areas, whether it's cell phones or automobiles or anything like that. It just depends on what, it could be furniture, depends on what you're interested in and what company that you're looking at. I guess the things that we look for in terms of a student or that make you successful in this program is just an attention to detail and looking at making sure that you understand what kind of things matter and what kind of details, and just having that passion for what you're doing. If you come into the program with a strong passion for what you're doing and a strong passion to learn new things and to try new things, you'll be successful in this program. And it could lead you into many different areas and many different career paths throughout your career. So that's pretty much prototype and design.
All right. So I know Cody said a couple of times that it was a 2-year commitment. So that's, I'm assuming it's a 2-year program. And I know some programs that are very popular at NWTC sometimes get full. Is there room in prototype and design right now for new students?
Yeah, there's room in prototype and design for, we take fall enrollment. So yeah, there's plenty of room in the program. And if there's more students than we want, we'll open up another section. So yeah, it's a 2-year associate's degree. We're also looking at adding an additive manufacturing certificate that will be embedded into our program. So that is going to really help lead people into multiple different career paths and push more to the manufacturing end, or it could push them into the product development side.
And I saw that welding was also on the list, so I'm assuming that you could go from that 2-year prototype and design, and if welding is really your thing, you could also then add on a welding certificate or degree.
Definitely. And that's the nice thing is we're really nice for the student coming out of high school that maybe just doesn't know what they're looking for, maybe doesn't know exactly what they want to do. They know they want to do something in the engineering and design field, but maybe they just is still a little unsure. This helps them kind of figure out what they want to do, because we touch on so many different things within the program.
I know there are also programs at NWTC that allow for a student to do their first 2 years at NWTC and then roll that into a 4-year degree. So is that something that you're able to do with prototype and design, or would you go into another area after that in order to do that continuation?
For which that, for like after prototype and design?
Right, that if can you take some of those credits and use those toward your bachelor's degree if you would then go to a 4-year institution?
Yes, it depends. You know, a lot of times it'll kind of roll into more of an engineering. I took more of a business management perspective because I was managing team members within my career as I developed. But yeah, you can go into more of an industrial design if that's more of the creative side of your background, or you could go into more of the fabrication side of type of background.
Okay, and Allison, I believe we have a question.
We do. So Andy, is there certain classes in high school that would help with this program?
Any shop class, any class that you get to take and touch things and take things apart and use your hands and develop those hand skill sets. I think with any program in the trades area, that is the key, is just knowing how to take something apart, put something together, work with your hands and develop that skill set. Now in high school, our program is very, 2 years, you're throwing a lot of stuff in there. So if you can take some of those general education requirements and get those out of the way before you come to our program, it makes you more successful within our program as well. So like your psychology and your diversity in those classes, which are offered in the high school level at a lot of the high schools.
I have a question real quick, Andy. What are some of the companies that your students, after they graduate, that they've gone to? And, you know, just a couple examples. We know Cody's story, but just because it is so flexible and there's so much you learn, just a couple other examples.
Well, over the years, I've sent them pretty much sent students all over the country. You know, yeah, we have Cody as our entrepreneurial success story. But we've sent students out to Johns Hopkins Research University, where I have 2 students out there that are model makers in their composite labs. I have students working for a car interior out in Michigan, which is called Yongfeng, which is owned by a Chinese conglomerate company now. But it used to be the staple for the big 3, General Motors, Chrysler, and Ford, for the interiors. All the furniture manufacturers, I've sent them people to KI, to Herman Miller Steelcase, which is the largest furniture manufacturer in the world. Motorola, you name it, and we've sent people all over this country. We have somebody that's working for Disney that came out of this program, and he works in the theme park development. So it's pretty amazing at the diversity that we've sent and places that we've sent people over the years.
All right. Well, very cool. And just a reminder that we do have one last date coming up on the 28th of October for Electromech. So we'll be hearing from some folks at Fincantieri, Marinette Marine, BPM, and UWGB on the 28th. And I did already send out the survey to all of the participants that registered ahead of time. So if you didn't get that, you can scan this with your phone and that should take you to our survey. But we're hoping to continue these after October Manufacturing Month with other content areas as well. Right now, we're looking to fill healthcare and transportation, distribution, and logistics for November and December. So we hope to see you for those. But I want to thank all of our speakers today for joining us and spending time sharing your career pathway and some advice for our students. So thank you very much. And have a great day, everybody.